Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Play It By Ear podcast. I am your host, Joanna, with my co-host, Carrie, and today we will be talking about a little bit of thinking outside the box in terms of our musical career path. Last time we talked quite a bit about sort of the myth and realities of it, and also the just like work-life balance type of things. But this time we want to talk about the journey itself of like what has that journey been like. So Carrie, the question that we want to ask you is, we always talk about following our dreams. That's kind of the big thing that we talk about as artists, as musicians. Follow your heart and follow your dreams. But no one ever really talks about what that journey actually entailed. Like where did you find yourself at a fork in the road? What decisions did you make? What did you say to people? How did it lead from one thing to another? And so I want to know the journey. Okay. And now that we're both kind of at a place where we're both somewhat settled, obviously our career is definitely going to still evolve as we grow older and older, but we're both a lot more settled than we were in our 20s.
That's true.
Are you at where you thought you would end up?
Absolutely not.
So what's that journey been like?
let me start by saying there was a point where I had wanted to give up entirely. I wanted to stop. That was not a happy time in my life.
When did you get to that point, and what kind of happened?
That was in the first half, I think, of my master's degree. I think I might have mentioned it to you.
Yeah, I recall.
Yeah, I was just struggling a lot. I mean, I also went to a new country.
Yeah,
entirely different city, different people. Drastically different school. Yeah, I just felt very lost and very down. But I mean, I ended up finishing my master's degree and ended up loving it. And I felt without those 2 years there, I wouldn't be where I am now.
Yeah.
So, no, I am not where I thought I would be. But I am pretty happy with where I am at the moment.
Yeah.
What I was hoping, I don't know if that, I don't think that's the correct word to use. I don't think hoping. What I was aiming for, I think my idealized version of what my music career would be, like we said in the previous episode, would have been probably a tenure position in an orchestra. That was it. And then once I graduated school, kind of realized, there's a lot more out there that I can do. Yeah. And actually there's a lot more out there that I am interested in. So that's when I discovered early childhood education. I've always had a passion for working with young children, and I think that's why the majority of my students are below the age of 18. Yeah, I have had a handful of adult students, but I enjoy teaching really the early years. And then I've always enjoyed writing. I've always enjoyed words, just reading. So I decided, I had a talk with my husband actually, and he really pushed me in this direction. He helped me cement this like a different path that I could take. He said, well, why don't you try communications? So I gave that a try. I really loved it. And that's what kind of led me to my current job at the Vancouver Academy of Music.
Fantastic.
I was very lucky that the CEO approached me to discuss actually not something to do with communications, but to do with working as an orchestral mentor. But when I mentioned to them that I'm thinking of going back to school to study something else, communication, he's like, oh, yeah, let's see, maybe we can work something out. So that's how it started. So yeah, I found that my path was absolutely not what I thought it would be. It was definitely not a straight path. Um, and I found that now doing a combination of different things is what fulfills me the most.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way that you could have even seen yourself doing this because the position didn't even exist.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
It was something they kind of, I think, created. I mean, they were looking to do something like that already.
Right.
But
Right.
just timing and letting people know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I think the fact that you talked about the fact that you liked to do communications and stuff like that, I think that's huge because I feel like this ties into what we were talking about in the last episode too, which is that there is such a pervasive ideal of the tenured position in an orchestra that it almost, like, I personally feel like anything else I do music wise is not worth mentioning to someone that I perceive to be, you know, higher level than me in music, or you know, has hiring power, or like just, you know, someone in a higher position of authority, you know. Completely
get that.
Yeah, it almost kind of feels like nothing else is worth talking about, you know. I've definitely been fighting this feeling for a long time. So, like, what made you say it?
Say that I was thinking of doing communications.
Yeah.
I think it just came down to survival.
Interesting.
I was at a point where I was ready to leave the early childhood career.
Oh.
Because I know, I mean, no one's getting any younger, right? I'm not going to spend my life like bending down and breaking my back.
Yeah, literally.
Working with with young children as much as I'd love to. It's just not the career longevity.
Right.
It's not there for me, at least.
I remember that. We talked about that.
Yes, that we did.
That we talked about. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was lost in a way. I didn't know what else to do. I just had this one item that I liked. Words.
You know, at a certain point, was there any element of the fact that you were at such a crossroads that there was really nothing left to care about? So you might as well talk about this thing that you like.
Well, I mean, it's not like I could tell them that I really like music because I was there doing music already.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not going to be redundant and say that.
Yeah.
So I guess, I think I was excited that I wanted to try something different.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me, I know deep down, as much as I'm passionate about other things, there's always been a part that wants to tie it back in to music. So I think that's what prompted me to mention that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because I never really want to stray too far from music.
Dang, you're right.
Baseline.
I do the same thing.
Let's talk about your path.
My path is very strange. So I hold on to what our theory professor said, and I feel like we talked about this briefly in like the first or second episode. He told us in our first theory class, he did a pep talk for us at the beginning of it, and I will never forget this. He said, what you will be doing 10 years out from now is not what you currently think you'll be doing. The world will be a different place. You will be a different person at that point. So whatever thing you think you'll be doing, you probably won't be doing that. And he meant it as you're likely going to like that job more than the job that you think you should be having right now. So in a way, he's known everything, and he's sort of foreshadowed the realization that we have come to, between the two of us, that we've talked about over the last few episodes now. He sort of foreshadowed that realization by saying that to us, I feel.
Did you believe him back then?
I don't know. Because, I was terrified, right, of doing the whole orchestral path.
Right.
So it's not that I didn't believe him, but it's more that I sought comfort in that statement. That maybe it's okay that I don't want to be an orchestral musician. Like, professionally, that is. Right. Like, maybe it's okay. So if anything, he sort of, I guess, planted a little thought seed in my mind of like, maybe it's okay to do something different. Right? But it was always a maybe at that point. But I think it was just enough to encourage me to do something completely off the wall, which was YouTube.
Right.
So,
but he was very supportive.
Oh, he was very supportive. Yeah. I would say he was number one supporter in the entire school, like out of the entire staff at the very least. Yeah. So, I mean, come to think of it, he really was the only one who actually knew what I was doing. No, I don't really even know how he had the time to know what I was doing.
I know.
Yeah, I wonder about that, actually. But yeah, he planted this thought seed in me that maybe I could do something different and be okay. So, I mean, to give everyone a bit of a background as to why I started YouTube, it's really just because I love the medium. I love the platform. I discovered that I love video editing. I love talking. That's why we're doing a podcast. Okay. And so I would watch Michelle Phan religiously. I would watch Kev Jumba, Wong Fu Productions. I still watch Wong Fu Productions. I'm actually a patron of theirs. Yeah. And just like David Choi. I'm listing all the first generation Asian American YouTubers, all right? J.R. Aquino, AJ Raphael, etc. All those people. Ryan Higa, definitely Ryan Higa. I watch these people religiously because I just was so enthralled by the fact that they made these videos by themselves. They wrote these videos by themselves. They improv'd it by themselves. They made the cuts by themselves. They could there was this intoxicating creative control that I had never experienced in any other creative medium, right? And I loved it. It was everything I wanted to do. It had bits of filmmaking involved in it. It had bits of comedy, talking, presentation type stuff. But there's also music in it too, right? I would time my edits to the music, and right. So there's a musical aspect to it. There's an artistic aspect to it. It was just, to me, all of my favorite things rolled into one. Yeah. Right? So
perfect combination.
It was the perfect combination for me. I was just like, this is my jam. So, I would show these videos to my family. God bless them for being so patient with me. But I would show these videos to them really excitedly and stuff like that. And so most people wonder why a pastor's daughter was allowed to make internet videos of herself at that time, because I was pretty much on YouTube around the birth of YouTube. I was watching YouTube on my several years, like my laptop from when I was in high school. Okay. You know, and so like, you know, at that time it was seen as like, I think YouTube was only maybe 4 years old at that point. And so it's still very new. No one, it was not taken seriously as a job at all. It's not like how little kids these days are like, I want to be a YouTuber when I grow up. There ain't none of that back then, okay? Back then, it was like you just went on there to make creative stuff because you felt like being creative. That was all it was, you know? And so the thing is, though, that my parents had a very interesting upbringing. My mom was, for some reason, allowed to major in Chinese literature and minor in English language, which is very odd for a person in my mom's generation to be allowed by their parents to study that kind of artistic stuff, right? My dad was not so lucky. He was, you know, like it was just expected that he would become an engineer, right? So he did that for a long time. He had like a midlife crisis and was like, actually, this is not what I want to do. So he became a full-time pastor. That's where my pastor's daughter thing comes from, right? He became a full-time pastor. He was, before that, a part-time pastor, and then he became full-time. And then he went into clinical counseling and all that stuff. And so he had this experience where he was like, shoot, I'm only following my dream when I'm like 40, 45, 50, right? I don't want this to happen to my kids. So I do recognize that that was very unusual for me to have Asian parents. I'm not joking. My parents and my older brother sat me down intervention style and was like, Joe, we need to talk to you about something. And I'm like, what's going on? They're like, we really think you should make YouTube videos.
Yeah, it's really weird to hear that from an Asian family.
No, you don't hear that. You know what I mean? Like, it's the opposite. It's usually the YouTuber sits down their parents and says, actually, I've been making YouTube videos for the past year or 2 years, and I've been hiding it from you, and I can't hide it from you anymore because I'm making money off of it now, right? That's the normal story. No, mine was they sat me down, and they were like, Joe, you need to make some online content now, you know? Like, they're like, you're built for this. This is your perfect thing. You have to pursue this, right? So that's how I started. I actually started by making some videos that I posted onto my personal Facebook profile just to test the waters to see what people thought. And then I migrated to YouTube. And from there, I just kind of had fun and just decided to do things that made me happy. So I made, after I graduated from university, I made my Flute 101 video. And that is, I think, my third most viewed video now, or second most viewed video. And I didn't make that video until after I graduated because I didn't feel that I had enough of I needed the B Muse letters behind my name to justify me.
Yeah. Authority.
Yeah, justify me making this video. When really no one cares, if we're being completely honest, okay? No one actually cares. But again, it's this thing that we've been talking about, right? Of like this idea of like your self-worth and your value as a musician. You have to have something to prove that you are worthy to be listened to. I now recognize that that's actually what I was dealing with. So I made this really snarky video with a lot of innuendos in it that really should not have been in there, but I just decided to, you know, do my own thing. I naively thought that this video would just be kind of like in the corner of the internet and it would just kind of stay there and that's it. No one would really find it. No, it's like my second most viewed video now or something like that. Second or third most viewed video. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so that kind of blew up, and like mildly blew up. I wouldn't call it viral. It's not viral. Okay. None of my videos have like 1 million views or anything like that. But it kind of mildly blew up in the kind of small flute circle that was, you know, almost non-existent on the internet at that time. So that kind of created a string of requests for different tutorials. So I did that. And so that particular stream took me to an email that I found in my inbox one day of a mom who was like, hey, my 12-year-old daughter and I found your videos online. We found your tutorials and we really enjoy your character, your personality. And we think that you, you know, like we took a look at your website and we think that you are a good authority on flute playing. Do you offer online lessons? Now, at the time, I was very against Skype lessons. I was like, you can't see them, the full thing. You can't touch them. You can't blah, blah, blah. I was so against it. But at that time, I had just freshly moved to Seattle. I had no money. All of the money in the bank was borrowed from my parents. Okay. I had nothing to my name. And I had this huge debt. I did not pay off my flute yet. I actually only paid off my flute last year. Okay. So I was like in the negative. And here are these people literally throwing money at me over the internet, right? I was like, I can't not take this. But the thing is, I didn't have anything set up for my Skype lessons. So I went back to look the other day. Apparently I took 3 days to whip up this PDF of like how Joanna's online studio works, blah, blah, blah. Like it was like a whole like PDF brochure of like how it works. When really I like whipped it up in like 3 days and then like was like, oh, why, yes, I do teach Skype lessons. And like it was a complete lie, basically. She's still studying with me, by the way.
I was just gonna ask.
Yeah, she's still studying. She's my longest like retained student.
Aww. Hi, Joanna.
So
hopefully you're watching.
And I told her this. It's not a secret. I told her this. Like she knows this now. Like 7 years later, she knows this now. But yeah, so it was and from then on, I took about another year to experiment with how payments work. How do you do it online? And kind of experimented because they were in a different time zone. So it got me kind of starting to get a little bit more used to like working with different time zones and stuff like that. And I needed to create a way to protect myself on the internet. So I had to make sure that I had an application process, that I had rules for how my studio works. I know that I will have a lot of trouble issuing refunds. So that's why, you know, if people go to my website, you'll see that it repeats over and over that there are no refunds. But it's really because I ain't got a secretary or a bookkeeper to do that for me. I'm doing it all myself. So there ain't no refunds, okay? Right? So like I spent a long time developing the rules of stuff that would protect me and it would help filter out you know, the wishy-washy people who just want a free lesson or something, right? So this is actually why I charge an additional $5 for a trial lesson. Most people will do a free trial lesson to entice people. I literally use it as a filtering system. Like, I'm like, you want a trial lesson with me? You pay extra. It's just to make me know you're serious.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, it's very backwards from how a lot of people think about how to do lessons and stuff like that. But the thing is, I was in a completely different playing field. I was on the internet, right? And I feel like the way that you run your business on the internet is very different from how you run it in person. You can't do the extra $5 in person. They will look you in the eye and be like, you are ludicrous. No.
Yeah.
Right? You can't do it in person. But you can do it online because the smart people will understand why you're doing it. They know why you're doing it. They're like, I am an internet person too. They're making sure I'm serious, right? There's this understanding that we both know we're on the internet and we need to, practice internet safety, right? So it's a completely different playing field than what I was trained for. And so I had to spend a year figuring out all these rules. After a year, I posted up the rules and an official application, and I've been taking students through that ever since. And so now I teach, like I finally counted the other day, an average of 15 hours per week now. Not bad, sometimes some weeks more, some weeks less, right? But it averages to be about 15 hours a week, and it's pretty livable. It's pretty darn livable. And add on to that, I have many other revenue streams. So I earn, a bit from YouTube. I earn a bit from Twitch. And I have a little bit of merch now. So I earn a little bit from there. And every now and then I'll have an odd gig, And I think that's basically, the last one is the Flute Center of New York. So for the Flute Center of New York, this is a very, very interesting path that happened. One of my dreams was to be able to review flutes, but it's expensive. It's so
if you were to buy them all on your own.
One, if you were to buy them, or even if I was to rent them, that would be very expensive. The other thing is, how do I get a hold of enough different flutes, right? And I was just like, you know what? This dream is never going to happen. I'm just going to make the one review of my own flutes in my bathroom, of all places that I chose to make this review. So I made a review of my student model Yamaha and my student model Jupiter, which I had won at a raffle draw. Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
At the it was the
Winterizer.
Winter. Yeah. It was our winter ball that we had in our music school one year.
That was an amazing prize.
It was.
Everyone was like, whoa.
Yeah. And like winning that, now I've realized the butterfly effect of it was that I ended up becoming partners with the Flute Center of New York. Isn't that wild? So I
take the chance.
Yeah. You have no idea, guys, how your choices can have insane butterfly effects. And so actually that wasn't even a choice. That was like straight up like luck, destiny. I don't know what you want to call it, right? So, but anyway, I had these 2 student flutes on me, and I was like, okay, I have these 2 student flutes. The one was the one I started on, and the other one was the one that I won. So I was like, okay, we're just going to do this review. I have no idea what I'm talking about, or I have no idea what I'm doing either, but it's fun. I love it. Like, it was just fun to make a review. It was fun to compare them. It was fun to find things to talk about them. What do you know? The Flute Center of New York found that video sometime later. So this is like many years later, they found that video. They also found my other videos, and they were like, we want to experiment with having influencers, social media influencers. I was their first one because they enjoyed my content. So they sent me an email, a cold email, asking me if I would like to, like you, experiment with a new job.
Yeah.
So I am not actually employed under them. It's basically like a contract. I'm basically an independent contractor. And so we're partners officially, which is wild to think about even now. Like, I cannot believe that I'm partners with the Flute Center of New York. So, but that's how that happened. And funny story, it went to my spam. I nearly missed it. There was something in me.
Yeah, that happened.
There was something in me that was just like, Joe, you should check your spam. And I never check my spam. Okay. Went to check my spam, saw their email. I was convinced it must be fake But I was like, I have to try though. I have to try at the very least emailing them back and seeing what they say. See if they can prove to me that they are really the Flute Center of New York. All they did, it was very clear they were the Flute Center of New York. We set up a video conference to talk to each other, and it definitely was the Flute Center of New York. And we've been partners ever since. We've been partners for like 3 years now. It's wild. The staff that I work with are our age, like late 20s, early 30s. And so they understand, like, we're living that same life. You know what I mean? The same musician's life. And holy cow, like, they give me so much creative liberty. It's insane. I cannot believe that they give me so much creative liberty, right? But I do believe it's because they know what type of content I put out and they trust me, right?
Yeah.
And essentially my YouTube videos served as this sort of portfolio for them to verify what type of content creator I was. They could tell that I'm very careful. They can tell that I am proud of my work and I try to make very good work. I don't try to put up just trash, you know?
Yeah.
And so like it serves up as a portfolio. They like what I do. The other amazing thing was that we both felt that we needed to move our reviews into a live format. I cannot believe that they were okay with this. You know? So like I had these meetings with them and I was like, you know, I just wanted to say like my content is changing. My content is definitely switching from just pre-made videos to live streams. And I was like, the thing that I believe that live streams would do for our reviews is it will show people how I'm live reacting to the flute.
Yeah.
And if anything, I think that is way more valuable information for a person shopping for a flute.
Yeah, it's genuine.
Yeah, like people get my like real reaction. It's not edited. It's not it's not premeditated. There's like nothing about it that's premeditated. They really are able to experience the flute vicariously through me, right? It's not like I'm going in super prepared. It's that I'm reacting to the flute the way they would react to the flute, right? So I'm sort of
first unboxing.
Exactly. I'm doing that simulation of them doing a trial, right? And I'm amazed that the Flute Center of New York was like, we like this idea. And I'm like, are you insane? Are you completely insane? But like they've been on board with everything I've suggested. It's crazy, you know? But then again, kind of coming back to our topic at hand here, I think it's because I have this portfolio of YouTube videos. And I never thought that YouTube would lead me to the career paths I have now, right? Which is teaching online exclusively and partners with the Flute Center of New York. And then I have my other little revenue streams just for a little bit of extra cash, you know? But yeah, that's kind of my two main paths right now that I'm doing concurrently. And yeah, I also did not think that would happen.
Main theme.
Dr. Bob was right. He was right.
Yeah.
It was not at all what I thought. And like your experience, neither of the career paths that I am on right now even existed 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't a thing. I think maybe there were a few people doing Skype lessons back then, but
no one would have taken them seriously.
No one took them seriously. No one took any of them seriously. No one took Skype teachers seriously. No one took YouTube seriously. No one took any sort of online content creation seriously at all. Nothing. Yeah. And here I am now.
But shows you that times change, and if you're willing to go with it, then you never know what might happen and where it might lead you.
Exactly. Like the term, like the phrase that I like to use is riding the waves of opportunity. The reason why I say that is because it really feels like you're surfing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're looking for the next wave to come in. You're riding that wave, you know. You're not just kind of going against like upstream, okay? Like you're not doing that. You're like on top surfing over the ups and the downs and whatever life throws at you, you know? And that's how my career has felt. It's felt like riding waves, you know? But yeah, that's my story of how I've ended up where I am now. It's been wild. It's been so wild. Yeah. Neither of our positions were even in existence before we took them.
No.
I mean, it just goes to show you that, like, just because it doesn't exist doesn't mean it can't happen. But then again, you wouldn't know what it is, right? You kind of have to just kind of, I think the thing that the two of us have done is just put it out there, what we like to do. Like, don't keep it to yourself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not to say that it would work every time. That's not what we're we're trying to advertise, but more so that just don't be afraid to talk about your hopes and dreams and your aims and your goals, because you never know who might be listening.
Yeah.
You never know who holds the key. You never know what opportunities there are out there. And in some ways you do have to search for those opportunities too. Sometimes they might come knocking, sometimes you help create them.
Yep. Like, I think the most important thing here is to talk about what you like to do.
Yeah.
Like, if you genuinely like to do something, you should talk about the fact that you like it. Like talk about it the way that you would talk about, like, you know, a fun, exciting thing, you know, in your life.
A puppy.
Right? Yeah. Right? Like, it doesn't have to be forced, but if you're thinking about it, it's okay to talk about it, you know? Yeah. Like, if you're really excited about something, you definitely should talk about it, you know? And I think that's what got both of us our jobs.
I think just being true to ourselves.
Yeah.
Really honoring our passions.
It's a really good word for it. It really does feel like that, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, because for me, I have held data.
Oh, good.
It's been a long day.
It's been a day. It's been a day.
It's been a day and a half. Yeah, I forgot what I was saying. Yeah, so I've held daytime work or like daytime positions and like freelance at night. Yeah. So my mind is blanking. Where was I going with this?
It's all good. It's all good.
Sorry, guys.
It's all good. You're seeing us at our rawest right now.
No filters.
No filters, man. No filters. It's all good.
No filters. I think some walls that came down here. Yeah, I really don't know where I was going with that.
It's all good. If it comes back to you, we can return to the subject.
Oops.
It's all good. It's all good. It's been wild. Yeah. And it's not that, you know, this might be an interesting thing to talk about briefly. It's not that sometimes you don't say no. I have said no to a contract before. I can't say who it was.
Yeah. How did it make you feel though afterwards?
Like I missed an opportunity. But I knew that it was not right for me. Like, I think, like in the last episode, we were saying that we're trained as musicians to like grovel for any sort of work, you know?
Yeah.
And when I took a look at this contract, it was not a right fit for me. That's all I can really say about it. It was not a right fit for me at all. And I had to email back and be like, I'm sorry, man. I can't do this, you know? And the worst part about this was that we had a Skype interview for this. And they were very excited about me, but ultimately I had to decline. This was before Flute Center of New York contacted me. Yeah. So I had no idea the Flute Center of New York thing was even going to happen. Had no idea. And so, like, I had to really coach myself afterwards to realize that I did take the opportunity. I did the interview.
Yeah.
Right? I did take the opportunity. It was not a missed opportunity because I took it. Right? So I guess what I'm saying is I do not advocate willy-nilly taking every job you see. Because if it's a really bad fit for you, you really shouldn't do it. You know? And, but you could always go for the interview.
Yeah.
You know?
It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt. You can go for the interview. You can look at the contract. You don't have to sign it immediately. You have time.
Ultimately, the choice rests with you.
Yeah. And it's okay. I wish a musician told me this. My dad told me this a lot. But he ain't a professional musician. You know how we are. When our family tells us things, we're like, you don't understand, you know? But like, I'll be that professional musician, okay? That tells whoever is listening, if you are faced with a contract that you are not comfortable with, it is okay to say no. It is not a missed opportunity. You took the opportunity, but your decision is no. That's fine. Yeah.
I remember what I was going to say now.
Oh, yes. Go.
Because of what you said, actually. So thank you. Yeah, so I have had daytime jobs and then nighttime freelancing. But I realized in my searches for like full-time daytime work. Yeah. When I look through job listings, of course I read the description, I look at the company, I research the company, but and then I look away from it, I mull over it, and I let my instincts and I let my gut think it through. It's like, does it feel right? If there's some part of me that starts prickling and feel like, yeah, if there's some sort of hesitation, next.
Should trust it. That gut instinct is there for a reason. People have, apparently there have been some, like a lot of anecdotes of like, if your gut doesn't feel right with it, there's probably something wrong.
Yeah.
It's okay to trust your gut. Yeah. If you don't feel comfortable doing something, you don't have to do it. It is not a missed opportunity.
Yep. Because for me personally, I like to make sure that things align with my own values.
Yes.
Because if they don't, then I'm compromising who I am. And that's not worth it at the end of the day.
I mean, that's just going to turn you into a big old stress ball, you know?
Yeah. You're not going to live a happy life.
You're not going to last long in that job anyway. Why take it? Come on, you're going to burn out and quit anyway. Right? Like, I know for a fact that if I took that contract, I would be miserable.
Yep.
I knew it, right?
And it's not worth it.
It's not worth it. It's not worth. Oh my God, the money was enticing.
I know, oftentimes it's not. But we have to realize that there's so much more to life than just money. Yes, you need money. We're not saying you don't. Yeah. But don't become a slave to it. Yeah. To the point where you're selling your soul for it.
It's not worth it. It's really not worth it. I completely agree with you. Oh my God. Yeah.
Well, I mean, these are just lessons that we've learned along the way.
Yeah. Bad gigs too, if we're going to roll in those as well. Have you ever been part of a gig that you're uncomfortable with?
Thankfully, no.
Yeah.
Not so far.
Yeah. That one that I told the story of with the fire. I definitely had that gut instinct that it was a little bit skeevy, you know? We probably should have put our foot down and said no.
Yeah. I've had a I've had one of the worst job experience. I wouldn't even call it a job actually. There was no contract, no agreement, no whatever.
Oh God.
It was just basically, um, hey, can you? I mean, because I knew these people from participating in something else that they do. I'm not going to go into so much detail
Yeah, yeah.
about it, but they're just saying, hey, we know you do music, you're involved with music, you like working with children, and you can sort of kind of teach. So why don't you help us with this? And I was being paid for it.
Okay.
So I was early 20s, I think.
Okay. Okay.
I was like, oh, okay, so cool. That's kind of like a summer job thing.
Yeah.
Or a job. So I took the opportunity.
Yeah.
There was no training, no explanation whatsoever as to what I needed to do. Threw me things. Ended up being yelled at. Because I had no idea what the expectations were. Don't know how they wanted things done.
They just thought you could read their mind and just do exactly what they thought?
I guess so.
Whoa.
So it was like 2 days in, I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Oh, yeah. So it seemed like a good opportunity then.
Yeah, no.
I guess I ignored that little niggling voice in my head and said, ah, beware.
Yeah. There were 2 times I remember that I ignored that little voice, that little gut instinct that was like, this is not for you. So, like you, I will also keep the details vague. But one was a music studio. And the contract was very uncomfortable. It had elements of needing to prove your worth to get a higher pay.
Oh my goodness.
I'm just going to say it was ethically questionable.
Yeah.
I ignored it and went ahead and, contracted with them. Ended up not teaching a single student, but due to their cancellation policy, I was paid half an hour to do absolutely nothing.
Wow.
I was never assigned a student ever again. That's it. Yep. So there's that one. So
what's the other
I
one?
basically got like the equivalent of a fancy bag of coffee for doing that. The other one, I will again be vague, but it was one of those kind of somewhat strange arrangements where it was like there was no formal contract. That's where you can get into a lot of trouble, guys.
Yeah, just don't
always have a contract.
In general, yeah, don't do it.
It has to be an official contract, even the way I run my online lessons, our invoices act as contracts.
I actually have a policy sheet that acts as a contract that I give to new families.
Yep. My application page on my website is my contract as well. So there's a little bit at the end that says like, I'm checking yes here to indicate that I agree with everything on this page, blah, blah, blah. Right. Like everything has to be in some form of written contract with the consent of both sides. Right. This was not one of those cases. And I was selling flutes. At one point, I did sell a flute. I sold one flute. However, I had a panic attack. Like a full-blown body shaking, kind of felt like I couldn't breathe, like burst into tears immediately. Panic attack. Because I do not have the mental capacity to be a salesperson. I can't push a sale to save my life. Was the training bad? No. It was actually great training. I couldn't take it. I'm not built for that. I can't do it. Now, some people think I sell flutes for the Flute Center of New York. No, I don't. I just get to try flutes and tell people how they play. And then I'd be like, now you make your own decision. Oh, by the way, use my code. You know?
Yeah, it's different.
I'm not pushing sales. And I made it very clear to the Flute Center of New York. I cannot push sales. Right? And they're like, great. That's not what we want you for. And I was like, great. Cool. Right?
Yeah.
But I can say that I have actually tried selling flutes. And I broke down. It was not the fault of the company. The only fault that I would have seen was that the contract was a little iffy, right? That's the only thing though. But in terms of the actual training itself and the actual work itself, I'm sure that someone else would have very gladly have taken my job and loved it. 100%. I was the one who was not built for it. Couldn't do it. Straight up panic attack. Guys, listen to your gut. Because my gut was already hella uncomfortable when we were making the arrangements to make this happen. I was so uncomfortable. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I'm nervous for a new job. It's not that. It was like...
It's a different feeling.
Like the pit of your stomach kind of feel, you know? Like your stomach drops, your heart drops. You just like, you know, it just feels like a burden on you that you're like, oh no, I have to do this thing, you know?
Yep.
I full on broke down. It was a full on panic attack. I had a panic.
You start thinking of excuses of how can I not go into work today?
I did that. Yes.
Yeah, that's when you know it's bad.
That's when you know it's bad. Like, so like, oh, we encourage all of our listeners, please listen to your gut. If you're uncomfortable, your gut is telling you something, man.
And if you're unsure about it and you want to double check, talk to someone.
Yes.
Discuss it.
Talk about it. Getting a third person perspective is absolutely valuable in these cases, right? What helped me withdraw from that flute sales job was talking to my family about it. And they were like, Joe, you're ruining yourself. You need to withdraw. Right? With the, you know, that other contract that I was uncomfortable with that I ended up withdrawing from and declining. I had, you know, like I talked about how uncomfortable I was with my family and with John. Right. And they all told me, Joe, if you're this uncomfortable, you really need to pull out. You really need to decline. Right. Like, it, you know, I think like it's so hard to say no. It's so hard to withdraw.
It is.
Like we really need to have a support network around us that, you know, helps us make these tough decisions. You know.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
I remember when I was if you can hear that my nose is plugged, it's because it's allergy season.
Oh, it is allergy season. Yes, it is.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
And you might probably hear that I'm sniffling a bit. Yeah, I remember when I was looking for jobs prior to the one that I have now, my husband told me the one phrase that he would ask me, can you see yourself doing that? If you cannot, if it goes even against one fiber of your being, maybe it's not for you.
I'm so glad you have him. John says the same thing to me.
Yeah. Our husbands are truly, truly blessings.
Yeah. Like, honestly, I think we're both somewhat still sane because of them.
Yeah.
Well, guys, follow your dreams, but also follow your gut.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the kind of theme of today's episode.
Approach it with wisdom.
Yes, discernment. Discernment was the word that my mom always used. She hounded it into our brains from when we were little. She's like, gotta have good discernment. You know?
Big word for little kids.
Mm-hmm. So I've heard this word for a long time. And she's absolutely right. It took me a very long time to figure out what she meant by that, obviously, because we were kids, right? But she would take us through certain situations and explain, you know, the decisions that she made, why she made them, and tell us that this was her discerning the right choice, right? And so, yeah, it's like work hard, but also work smart, you know?
Yep.
Follow your heart, but also follow your gut, you know? Look at all of the, you know, look at your entire contract and then decide if you can actually see yourself doing it, like your husband says, right? Yeah. Be wise. I cannot agree more with that statement. Wow. You know, guys, between episodes, we've been telling each other, these episodes are getting more and more real. We never meant for these episodes to get this real, but we are loving it, and we hope you guys are too.
Let us know what you think.
Yes. So how about we end it for today? What do you think?
Sounds good.
Well, so guys, we want to thank you so much for listening and for watching if you're watching on YouTube. We would love to hear your response. If you just want to share your own similar story, or if you want to ask a question, please email us at letsplaybyear.podcast@gmail.com. Yes, I got it right. Again, that is letsplaybyear.podcast@gmail.com. We are also on social media, so we're Let's Play It By Ear on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And we have a website, letsplayitbyear.com, where we do have a contact form there. So if you want to contact us, that's probably the best way to contact us to get into our email. But yeah, we really want to hear from you guys as well. A lot of these things that Carrie and I are sharing with each other, we actually haven't talked about before. So we're actually just as surprised by these topics as you guys are listening to them. So
we're riding the wave along.
Yes, exactly. So anyway, we both thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a lovely week, and we will see you again in the next episode. See you guys later. Bye-bye.